Come on guys, we're gonna go out into the hoop house. We finally passed the 4 or 5 days that it froze every night and didn't get that much above freezing in the morning time. It's supposed to be in the mid 50s today, which is much more doable outside than the 40s, low 40s. So let's go out to the hoop house because I want to show you some things. As you guys can probably already see, the tomato that I had in here did freeze. It had about 10 tomatoes on it, and we gotten down to, it was like 4 or 5 days in a row, the low were like 26, 27. And although other things that I have in here did not freeze, I think it just being close to the door, and I forgot that we had 2 holes in the door and then 1 hole right above the tomato plant. Just really did not do this tomato plant good, because I do have some pepper plants in here, and the ones further away from the door are still living. I do have one. So the first pepper plant right here, you can see that it's not doing well, but then as it goes back, all these other pepper plants, and even I have pepper plants over in that corner right there, they all survived. I also have some potatoes back there, and they stayed alive, and so that tells me that I'm thinking it was just because it was like really close to the door, and the door had actually 3 holes, and then the 2 holes right above it just let the cold air really onto that tomato plant. Either way, I bought out my pruners because I'm just going to cut it at the base, take it out. I'm going to give the green tomatoes to the pigs, and what I really came in here for is because I got an alarm on my phone today that today is fertilizing day. I've been trying to keep on a fertilizing regimen of every 2 weeks with fish fertilizer. For those of you gonna say that I can use this for fried green tomatoes and stuff like that, I know, and I also have some green tomatoes that I plan on using in the future in a recipe in my house already. But with these tomatoes, I am going to just go ahead and give them to the pigs. They are not going to be wasted. Our girl pig, we're expecting that she's pregnant, so this will be a nice treat for them. And I'm going to leave the roots in the ground, or I'm going to try if I can. Actually, my pruners aren't sharp enough. Let's see if I can just cut. Okay. Try to leave as much roots and soil in the ground as possible.
Let's try now. Hi. Hi. Are you one? Oh. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Look at Bucky. He's so sad. Hi. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
With our soil having the high phosphorus and high potassium, I've been going ahead and fertilizing with just my fish fertilizer. I did use this cow magnesium supplement on the garlic, but I've been I think I've done it twice already using the fish fertilizer. I did get this 5-gallon bucket open, and I've just been putting a tablespoon in it and watering each bed. So today's the day I'm going to do that again. I have some broccoli heads forming in the hoop house, which is so exciting. So we need to go ahead and start fertilizing those beds. You can see I have a head of broccoli forming here, and there's some other places around that have some heads. And broccoli does need a good amount of nitrogen. It is a nitrogen loving plant. So I've just been putting a tablespoon of fish fertilizer in here. And I've just been fertilizing each bed. I've done this for each bed in here as well as the garlic. The last time I did this was 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to also be fertilizing the garlic again. And I did end up separating the garlic, and I'll show you guys that. So you guys can see this is where the in-ground bed in my garden, this is where I had all the garlic, the elephant garlic planted that I didn't plant, that it resprouted from last year's harvest that I forgot to pick. And they were all kind of jumbled together. And you can probably see right now that the leaves are kind of yellow. I'll bring you in closer to show you. But this is one of the beds that I did take a sample out of here when I sent it into the soil test, and it had the high potassium and phosphorus, which said that it makes it hard for plants to absorb other nutrients like calcium, magnesium, zinc. And so that is why in my other video I showed you guys that I bought a fertilizer specifically to do mist, what is it called, when you spray the leaves to get the nutrients into the leaves. And then I came out here, I didn't bring you guys with me, and I I cut the tops of all of the garlics and I transplanted them. I've never transplanted garlic before, but I read that you could transplant garlic, and at first I was going to leave them all together, but with the problems of the soil, I decided that it would be better for me to go ahead and try and separate them, that they would have the better chance at surviving by being separated, so that way it could have as much nutrients as possible. So I want to show you guys, I didn't have to buy garlic at all. And it's so funny because at the beginning of the season, I realized I didn't buy any garlic and I didn't have any garlic. And I was wondering what happened to all of my garlic. And then I realized when I came outside and saw this garlic, all of this garlic sprouting, that I didn't harvest my garlic last year. And they all just kind of separated and started sprouting itself. But it made enough when it was all jumbled together and all popping up together. It was only enough to cover like 1/3 of the bed, but now that I separated all of them, it was literally enough to have 2 rows, and this is a 40-foot bed. So I went ahead and just guesstimated, tried to planting them, this is onions right here, but 4 feet apart. Up here the bed is a little closer, but when it gets wider, there's 2 rows. So there's a garlic here, and then there's a garlic here in these rows. But the garlic wasn't, I guess when I planted it over here, they weren't sprouted yet. But some you can see I have 2 rows going down, and then this row that's not planted or that's not popped up yet, I'm sure there's elephant garlic there, but just haven't came up. Same thing with this area right here, there's garlic that just hasn't come up. Right here you can see how, because some of them hadn't fully come out yet, and I just dug them up. and separated them, and you can kind of see. But this was enough to do 2 whole rows of this 40-foot bed, and they're planted about 40 or 4 inches apart. I planted this bed a few days before we had all of those freezes in a row. And so the first day I came out here, garlic can handle a freeze, obviously. Like if you've ever planted garlic, they can survive snow, they can, you know, all the things. And 27-degree weather, 26-degree weather wouldn't kill them. But since I had already disturbed their roots by moving them, some of them towards the front, which I cut to let the leaves recover and let the roots recover and not have to spend so much energy trying to hold on to those leaves after knowing that it was going to be kind of like a shock. But some of them did just fine, like this. You can see it's still sturdy, and so I didn't cut those leaves, but some of the leaves I did cut more towards the beginning with the skinnier leaves. Like I said, I've never done this before. I just read about it and knew that I needed to separate this garlic because I had a better chance of me separating it and fertilizing it and trying to get some healthy garlic than leaving them all clumped together, and then they don't grow big bulbs. And with the soil already not having the proper balance, I just thought it was worth it to separate them. So that's what I did. I'm so happy now that I have all of this garlic and I didn't have to buy it. And I'm just going to keep on this fertilizing method, and we'll see together if it works. Now that I have all of that garlic and the broccoli and the hoop house all fertilized and watered, I did want to come over here and grab a few leaves of comfrey. Well, not a few, probably all of it, because I recently read an article and watched a video where comfrey has a lot of nitrogen in it. It's high in nitrogen, and they said you can use it. I watched a video where someone used it, like broke it up and used it to make fertilizer tea or compost tea, where they just took all of the comfrey they had, broke it up into little pieces, put it in water, and then let it sit and fertilize their plants with that. They also said that you can break up the comfrey and use it as mulch. And since my garlic doesn't have any mulch, I figured this comfrey plant was over here, it's still alive, that I'm going to break some pieces off of here, and well, a lot of pieces off of here, and I'm going to use it as mulch for my garlic since it's high in nitrogen. And that is what the name of the game for this year's garden is: nitrogen, nitrogen, nitrogen. So I'm just going to be taking the comfrey and literally just laying it between the garlic as a ground cover. So obviously it's going to take lots more leaves. So I enlisted the help of Nehemiah, and as she was pulling comfrey over and bringing it over, I just started laying it down in between the garlic and around the garlic, and I am going to water this in so that it stays, and I'll just continually water this bed when it gets dry. This year coming up is going to be an experiment throughout the whole garden, just with me trying to fix my soil with the fertilizing. And I usually don't fertilize in the past years. I would be hit and miss with fertilization, but I want to be more intentional this year. And so that's why I'm starting right now with this garlic and making sure that I'm fertilizing, especially with watering, and so also getting in a drip irrigation, because one of the recommendations, as well as fertilizing with high nitrogen and only nitrogen, was to make sure that the soil is getting enough water to wash out some of that phosphorus and potassium. And so with fertilizing, I'm also going to make sure that all of the beds stay watered. I'm going to start with the beds at the back, the log raised beds, and get those on drip irrigation. And then I don't know if we'll ever be able to get my whole garden on drip irrigation, but we're going to start in the back and then we'll work our way forward, because it's much easier to water the beds closer up front than it is to water the beds way at the back, because this is a 90-foot area. But now that I got my to-do list done in the hoop house and out in the garden, I'm going to call it a day. thank you guys for hanging out with me while we fertilized and watered, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.